Okay, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes with everyone regarding the Management 311 course and the final deliverables. So, when you look through the syllabus, obviously, we talk in the syllabus about discussion board, three case analyses, quizzes, and a final deliverable. What actually I think we ended up doing or will end up doing this semester is the writing assignment speaking about a self-reflection paper. And it's something like a 7 page. Now, does it have to be 7 pages? No, but it should be something better than just 2 or 3 pages and a lot of baloney. But it should be done in APA 7th, and delivery is the end of the semester. That's the due date for everything. We already discussed that. End of the semester to my NJCU email as an attachment. And basically, it's the idea of a discussion that deals with pretty much self-reflection on how at least two things from this semester, whether it's the idea of emotional intelligence or something like that you read about, or something else from the content section, two things that were presented, how that can impact you and what, if anything, you might be considering doing with that as you go, excuse me, forward. So, how will this, so it says in the syllabus, personal effectiveness and so forth. So the idea is what out of these things, because again, emotional intelligence is a big thing. We speak about IQ, and people say, well, that's how smart you are. No, that's not how smart you are. IQ is really a measure of a few things, but basically your capacity or ability to learn. And the underlying argument is that in terms of IQ, that doesn't really change much from the day you're born until, the day, let's call it your expiration date. Um, it may change a little here and there. EQ, however, this emotional quotient, this emotional intelligence, that changes tremendously, radically, and we incorporate all of that every day and every decision we make, every conversation we have, and so forth. So emotional intelligence is pretty important. So you might do some digging and do some of the reading and so forth, and then you might want to speak to that and one other concept or theory that came about as a result of this course. Now, it says in the syllabus also there will be 3 quizzes. We're not doing quizzes. I put that in there because a lot of people like to see that in the syllabus, but we're not really doing quizzes. I think you're aware of that already. There will be some discussion board things. I mean, we posted, I think, 1 or 2 things, but I may post 1 or 2 more before the end of the semester. But the final deliverable is this idea of a deep dive. Deep dive, meaning you're doing a deep analysis, fully supported and sourced. In other words, citations and references. This is something that is not your opinion, so it's not a subjective paper, how you feel, what you think, and so forth. It's not that. It is an objective analysis based on what other experts have said vis-a-vis that topic. And it surrounds the idea of some material item or concept that was discussed in the course or in the readings or that you tripped across in your own individual research with regard to something that was brought up or alluded to in the course. The other thing is that it does not have to be a paper. If it is a paper, it must be APA 7th. That is the style sheet of the School of Business. Not my personal choice, but that's what's there. That's what we have to work with. But the other alternatives are, if you don't like writing in paper, well, then use PowerPoint. But if you use PowerPoint, it's got to be in notes view. In other words, the slide, but then notes view allows you to put notes at the bottom. Well, that's where the detail would go because a PowerPoint slide, as you already know, really deals with bullet points. So the real meat on the bone is where you would stick this down in the notes section. So it can be a paper, APA 7th, or it can be a PowerPoint notes view, Or the third option, and you choose whatever makes life better for you. But the third option is this MP4, kind of a blog style thing. So we could be doing, as I'm doing here, paper in hand, notes in hand, because it's not a course on memory. I'm not testing your memory. What did you memorize from the course? So you can have your notes and you can present this in an MP4. And I say MP4 because I know I can open that as an attachment. With the software that we have here, I can't open every single type of video that there is. So I know I can do this, which is why I say that. So it can be I don't know, a Joe Rogan type blog, on some key element from, the course, something that you've taken from that. Again, deliverable dates are the end of the semester. So, the course ends, it says here, May 19th. So somewhere around May 19th is where all your final deliverable stuff should be. So the topics that you will have read about, hopefully researched, the idea of IQ versus EQ, what is organizational behavior, motivation, some leadership things. The SAP ETOP thing is strategic advantage profile, environmental threats and opportunities profile, but especially the ETOP thing, that's the environment that we work in. So when we say environmental threats and opportunities, well, it's kind of like a SWOT analysis, only this is specific and a deeper dive. At least that's what it's geared towards. So think about what the environment is, economic to be sure. So the economic influences, political, regulatory, legal, technological, and so forth, cultural, social, and so forth. So, again, when we talk about the, idea of organizational theory and practice, the practice side is what we do on a daily basis. And that's why EQ is so important. That's also why understanding the environment is so important. So these are the kinds of things you can write about, do a PowerPoint about, do an MP4 about for your final deliverable. How many pages? Again, let's keep it real. I'm not going to give you an artificial number. If I said to you, well, do 15 pages and you were really only capable of doing 12 without just running out of thought, running out of ideas, well, what would you do for the last few pages? Well, remember, and it may have been a lot of years ago, but I sat where you sit. So in that circumstance, I know what I'd do. I'd load my double barrel BS gun and I'd keep writing for the additional pages. You don't want to do that. I don't want you to do that. So let's just keep it reasonable. It doesn't have to be 15 pages, but it sure as heck can't be 3 or 4. Has to be APA 7th. If you do the PowerPoint, well, so how many slides? I don't know. Well, if you were going to write 10 pages, I imagine you'd have about 15 or 17, maybe even 20 slides. And if you were going to do an MP4, how long does it have to be? I don't know. You probably cover everything you need to cover in 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. So that's what you're tasked to do. So to clear up any confusion, we are not going to do 3 case analyses. We're going to do the reflection paper, and we're going to do this final deliverable. Participate in the discussion board, and I've gone very light with that for a bunch of different reasons. But this is what the tasking is. Due date is the end of the semester, so let's call it May 19th. And everything that you send to me will be as an attachment to Blackboard. Email me with any concerns. If we need a private Zoom, email me. We'll coordinate times and get it together. But I hope this is helpful for you. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day.